Hello everyone and welcome back. If you're a subscriber, thank you for joining me again. If you're new here, welcome to Just K, where we talk about all things health. We've talked recently about what to do when you're not feeling well. We talked about dehydration. I've shown you some of the basic kind of tea I make with dehydration. Last video we talked about bacteria versus virus versus influenza. Today we're going to talk about something serious and more common, and that is depression. Depression is a serious thing that I consider one of the most common unnatural things that can happen to us. And so depression, anxiety, that's what we're going to discuss today. Depression started as an astrological term for the angular distance of a star below the horizon. In medieval times in Latin, it came to mean to press down. The more literal sense of the word came about in the 1950s, and it meant dejection or a state of sadness or a sinking of spirits. Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. Some of the symptoms include sleep disturbance, reduced appetite or increased cravings, restlessness, agitation, fixating on past failures, slow thinking, speech or body movements. There's a seasonal depression that I'm going to talk about real quick, and seasonal depression is symptoms that start like maybe in the fall and continue through the winter months. The reason for a seasonal depression, especially if you live in a state like I do, Washington State, the decreased sunlight in the fall messes with your circadian rhythm, which we'll go over in a minute what circadian rhythm is, but it brings a drop in your serotonin levels, which causes a disruption of the body's melatonin levels. And we'll go into that a little bit deeper. Circadian rhythm is basically a 24-hour clock, a cycle that's part of your body's internal clock, like your sleep cycle and your wake cycle. It comes from the Latin word circadium, which means around a day. The serotonin you heard me just speak of, that's a chemical produced by nerve cells. It's found mostly in your digestive system, but it also is found in blood platelets and throughout the central nervous system, and it helps with the constriction of blood vessels. Melatonin, that's a word you're probably all familiar with. That's a hormone found in your body that helps maintain your sleep and wake cycle. We've gone through some depression symptoms like the reduced appetite, the slowed body movements. There's a lot more to it, and I strongly suggest, if you feel like you might be suffering from forms of depression, to take the time to research it, and I'll definitely have links below. Diet can play a role in depression. A lot of gluten, which is found in things like soy sauce, a lot of processed foods, red meats, a lot of fried food. Sugars is a big one, okay? Like energy drinks, they can cause weird heart rhythms and really mimic an anxiety attack. And so you're going to want to watch out for that. There are vitamin deficiencies that can aid in you being depressed as well. And let's go over a few of those. Vitamin B1 or thiamine. That helps the body make new healthy cells. It's considered an anti-stress vitamin because of its ability to protect the immune system. It's found in whole grains and legumes. Vitamin B6, that's important for brain development and keeping the nervous system and the immune system healthy. And it plays a major role in producing serotonin. B6 can be found in whole grains, brown rices, and legumes. Zinc, that's a nutrient that's found throughout the body. It helps with metabolism and the immune system. It's important to healing wounds. It's important to taste and smell. It's found in whole grain, protein, enriched foods. Iron. Iron is something that most people have naturally in their body. It powers the red blood cell production and delivers oxygen to your blood. It's found in leafy green vegetables, seeds, and nuts. Vitamin D, I'm going to actually do a whole video on that because vitamin D deficiency has a strong component with depression. It's necessary for keeping calcium balance throughout your body. It acts on your bones, your intestines, your kidneys. The best form of vitamin D comes from the sun. There are other things that can exacerbate depression too. Thyroid conditions, which is another one I want to do a video on because it gets pretty intense. But there's hypothyroidism, which is the most common, and that means that less hormones than your body needs are being produced by the thyroid gland. Okay, that's an underactive thyroid. Hyperthyroidism, which is less common, means the thyroid gland is producing more hormones than the body needs. Now, the symptoms, mostly for hypothyroidism, depression is a big part of that symptom. Chronic stress. Now, and I know just we're talking about depression, but chronic stress is what we'll call situational. So stress is the body's way of responding to threats from danger, from difficult situations, any kind of threat whatsoever. And it deals with these situations by releasing higher amounts of adrenaline and cortisol to help the body deal with the stress. Now, when the stressful situation is over, then the levels typically return to normal. In chronic stress syndrome, the levels remain indefinitely high, which causes a hormone imbalance that can mess with your heart and things of that nature. There are also medical conditions that can be considered part of the anxiety problem, like angina. So angina is inadequate oxygen flow to your heart. There's arrhythmia, which is an abnormal heart rate. Diabetes, high blood sugar or low blood sugar can produce anxiety-like symptoms. Irritable bowel syndrome, because the colon is part in part controlled by the nervous system, and the nervous system is extremely sensitive to stress. So if I haven't given you, I said depression, if I haven't given you the definition of anxiety yet, it comes from a Latin term meaning to choke or strangle, and it's a mood disorder that gives you a feeling of apprehension or fear. Typical symptoms are like palpitations of the heart, sweating, feelings of stress or despair. Asthma is another thing that can make you feel like you're having depression or anxiety. Just the coughing, wheezing alone can produce anxiety-like symptoms because you're not getting the blood flow that you need. Anemia, which is something that a lot of people might have and aren't aware of, that's when you're running low on red blood cells. Red blood cells deliver the oxygen to your body, and if you're not getting enough oxygen to your body, it causes your pulse rate to increase to make up for the lack of oxygen. And when your pulse rate increases, that can create a feeling of anxiousness. There are medications I also want you to be aware of when we talk about anxiety and depression. Antibiotics. Antibiotics stop infections caused by bacteria. Some types of antibiotics could be penicillin, zithromax, augmentin. So if you're taking any of those, beware of that. Opioids can also cause depression. Opioid is found mostly in the poppy plant, and it works in your brain to produce various results or a variety of effects. An opioid, like a Vicodin, fentanyl, OxyContin. Surprisingly enough, hormone replacement therapies, Prempro, Prefest, those are medications that are usually given to women in menopause because it replaces estrogen in the body. They can also cause depression. You hear these hormone-related drugs a lot. Corticosteroids, that's a class of drugs that lowers inflammation and then kind of reduces the activity of the immune system. Prednisone, beta blockers. A beta blocker is a medication that lowers your blood pressure by blocking the hormone adrenaline in your system. Those medications include things like atenolol, metoprolol, things like that nature. Then there are also statin drugs. A statin drug lowers your cholesterol by blocking the substance in your body that produces it. Those drugs would be Crestor, Zocor, Pravachol. Anticonvulsants, anti-seizure medications, they suppress the rapid firing of neurons in the body during seizures, like clonazepam, diazepam, Lamictal, Neurontin, gabapentin. And I'm just going to let you know there's some pretty heavy hitters. I've been on a few of those, and there's some pretty heavy hitters. There's also a class of drugs called anticholinergic drugs, and they basically drop the neurotransmitter from something called an acetylone. A doctor will probably say I mispronounced that, but basically it's in the central nervous system, and dermatologists use it to help with hyperhidrosis, which is just like excessive sweating. Those medications include propanthyline, oxybutynin, things of that nature. Acetylcholine is a nerve impulse in the central peripheral nervous system, and it contracts smooth muscles, dilates blood vessels, increases bodily functions, things of that nature. So beware if you're taking any medication in any of those class of things. Now, I'm not saying that the only way you get depression is if you have these. I'm telling you that you need to be careful. If you're already depressed or not depressed and have anxiety, you want to check any of those things I just named out, because it could be adding to it. So let's go over some things to do for depression. And I'm going to do it by provider discipline. If you remember back in my second video, I talked to you about the difference between mainstream medicine, holistic and naturopath medicine versus herbalistic medicine. So we're going to break it down in that manner. Mainstream medicine, what they will most likely do is recommend therapy. They will give you medications that include things like Celexa, Lexapro, paroxetine, Zoloft, Cymbalta. The thing you need to know about these drugs is that most people don't experience any relief or see an effect for several weeks, and in some cases they experience an increase of symptoms right after taking these drugs. So that's really important to remember. Holistic and naturopath medicine would probably do the same thing in the sense of recommending therapy if that's what's needed, but they will also pull in lifestyle choices. What I mean by lifestyle choices, refer back to my video, things to do when you're not feeling well, but things like natural light is important, exercise, things that get your adrenaline moving, making sure that your diet is balanced and doesn't have things like too many sugars, avoid caffeine and things of that nature. An herbalist will do the same thing. Now, a good herbalist will still send you to seek therapy if it's severe enough and if that's what you need. A good herbalist will still also look at your lifestyle and try to help you make changes in that. The things they would prescribe you would be more along the lines of things like kava, passion flower, ginseng, valerian, lavender, St. John's wort, things of that nature. Here's what I want you to take from this. Depression and anxiety is real. Depression and anxiety are serious. You, especially in today's climate and culture, you don't have to have a medical reason to be anxious or depressed, okay? Talk to someone. It's really important. Talk to someone and get help. You're not doing this alone. You're not suffering this alone. It is more common than you think. Get help, whether it be from an herbalist, a holistic doctor, a mainstream doctor. If you go to church and you want to talk to your pastor, talk to someone and do something. Don't suffer alone. Remember what I said. It all ties in together. Mind, body, and soul. It literally all goes together. And if one is not right, the other two are not going to be right. Don't look at this as if something is wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're good. There's things wrong with this world. And a lot of people know this, and you feel out of control, and that can lead to feelings of depression and anxiety. It's so important to me that you don't feel alone. If you don't know what to do, shoot me a comment down in the comment box. I will research wherever state, whatever town you're from, and try to find help for you, because it's that important. I want you to be okay. To my people, it's real and it's okay. Don't shy away from it. Let's get this taken care of, okay? We're not going to get this world right. We ain't going to get this earth situated until we get ourselves together. So let's take care of this anxiety and depression, all right? Hey guys, in my next video, we're going to talk about vitamin D depression and vitamin D deficiency and thyroid disease. And we're going to finish this series up with probably cooking a little, baking a little something back in the kitchen. Thank you again for joining me. Remember to like, subscribe, click the bell so that you get my future videos. I do hope you're picking up this vibe I'm putting down, and I can't wait to see you again. Thank you guys.